Here we are back at it again. I just got off of work at home and fired up the old air compressor. So what's on the agenda for today is to get this last remaining caliper bolt removed. This is on the passenger side. And then disconnect the tie rod and the strut tower from the top of the wheel well up there. And then just a couple of last minute things to do in order to finish everything up in order to drop the subframe. So I believe I still need to disconnect the electrical connectors and all that to the transmission. That's about it. And then I'm just going to clean up around the car. So I'm planning on connecting the an engine lift to the engine. Transmission will still be attached to the engine, and I'm hoping to use a jack under the trans and the engine lift holding up the engine. Kind of use those two in unison to control the engine, trans, subframe, all of that stuff. So lower it safely. So the car is up on jack stands. I'll be lowering that down, and then I can get to the rear of the engine for downpipe installs. Going to also replace some O-rings on coolant hoses, and basically just inspect everything in the back. So let's do it to it. There goes nothing. I'm running out of ideas here. So what I'm gonna do at this point is heat the bolt up, and then I got some MAP gas here. I'm gonna heat the bolt up, try to get a cherry red, and then get it off of here. So like I said, I'm running out of ideas. I don't know what else to do. So let's just keep the video rolling, and let's see how this turns out here. Okay, it's not quite cherry red, but Wow. Okay, that's it. So, you notice I was working from below after, well, to heat it and after I heated it to put the impact in the onto the bolt. You do not want to breathe those fumes. I made that mistake yesterday and I haven't been feeling the same all day because of it. So, when you heat up a bolt and you got those plumes of smoke and all that, man, just don't even try to hold your breath or anything. Just stand back. It's not worth it. Okay. Oh man. Whew. All right. I don't know why the impact wouldn't be able to pop that free, but as you just saw, I'd use a breaker bar and give it all that I had. So, as said before, these bolts are probably some of the toughest ones to break free on this car, from what I've been hearing. So, by far the toughest ones that I've had to endure. Okay. All right, so we're just gonna tie this up. And I'll try to get into a close-up, but I had basically nicked this brake line here. So I called the dealer up. They were able to find me another replacement brake line. Wasn't too bad in terms of price. So I said, sure, let's do that. Because all of the aftermarket brake line kits and all that you can get that are awesome and shiny and stainless steel and all that noise, they are all, none of them include that brake line. Okay, wow, this guy is still hot. So, here's the bolt. Oh boy. So, I don't know, I'm gonna either clean this up or maybe just order some new ones. So, no washer on this bolt. Okay, now we're gonna disconnect the rest of the bolts and nuts holding everything together. So, next up we're gonna take off this guy here. This is a 16 millimeter. So, okay. And I mentioned it before, but there's a bolt in the back here. And that's what was running through here. The notch, or the flat head, faces forward, and it's the same on the other side but in reverse. So the flat side still faces the front of the car. Okay, that was so this was a 16 millimeter up top. Now we have a 13 millimeter. Okay, and something I'm going to do is just leave this bolt in just a tiny bit and nice and gentle tap it out. Okay. Alright, so I have my brake caliper hanging from this tie rod here. That just means that once it pops off, there's going to be a little bit of weight hanging off of it, but Apparently I shouldn't have popped the spring on my brake caliper. All my brake pads are falling out. That's funny. Right about there. Okay, there it goes. Alright, so now we're disconnected here. Now we just have to finish with the connections up top. And to do that, I will change the camera angle. Alright, so now we're going to remove the 3 large 16mm bolts on top of the strut. Okay, just for future reference, this one here had a big fender washer on it, as well as this back one here. So this one and this one had fender washers. Oh, this guy does too. I'm going to have to check the other side. I don't remember the other side having fender washers like that, so either they were missing or I didn't pull them. Nope, they're here. Okay. Okay, just wanted to go handheld for just a second here. The last 2 nuts are kind of hidden, and they are, my car's never had any sort of work like this done before, so sorry about it being blurry, but these 2 little silver caps, you have to pry those off, and then that's the last remaining connector for these towers here. So I'll just I'll see if I can film me removing these guys. And for the other side, what I just did was I used just a couple screwdrivers. It's not too complicated or anything like that, but I wanted to try to keep them in good shape, these caps, so that way I could, you know, reuse them, reinstall them, but okay. And these caps are kind of, they're painted, so I don't know if they were like installed and then the body was painted or what. I'm not sure, but the other side, they almost had like body seam filler on the cap, the one that's more closer to this bulkhead here. Okay. Alright. So here's the cap. I know that's going to be blurry, but too bad. The cap basically has like 2 edges with a little bit of a channel in it. So the lower one locks into the hole. And it looks like they're black normally. And then they're painted silver or something. So it's kind of cool. Every little piece and part on this car says Germany on it. Alright. So that was the first one. I know this angle kind of sucks, but you get the idea on how to do this. Okay. So I mentioned it before, but this one is kind of coated in like that body seam sealer stuff or whatever. So this one's even harder to get out than the other one because it's effectively glued in place. The other one was a lot easier compared to this guy. So just go slow, take your time. If you can, get a screwdriver or scraper around all the edges of it first and kind of break it free. Okay. I don't think I have it broken free, but I'm just gonna pull on it. See what happens. No, it's not coming out. It's not coming out. Okay. All right. Okay. These cars are awesome. I mean, the best part about them that I like working on them is, I mean, obviously they're complicated to work on. Not complicated, but involved. I mean, you got to basically take apart everything to do anything. But the thing that I always find funny every time I work on my car is it's always the most stupid, simple thing that'll like eat up a half hour or something of my time. And I'll just be sitting there like, yeah, awesome, I got, you know, 2 bolts loose today or something. So I got that sealer on the leading edge of this plug. There it goes. Okay. Now, let's grab a flashlight. Let's grab a better flashlight. Okay, here we go. Alright, so that was one of the plugs that I just popped free. This is the one that had the body seam sealer stuff all over it. You can kind of see it by the bulkhead there. And then underneath this clip clamp thing is the second one. What is this thing? It's like a hold down for the battery or something. Of course, that's going to get in the way of removing this nut. Awesome. Okay, so that's what's next, removing these 2 nuts. Okay, so I was trying to figure out how to work around this, but there was like a metal bracket next to the battery that hangs over this nut. So I was just able to basically take a screwdriver, not prying on the AC lines over here. I'm sure you probably can't really see much in terms of this camera, but I'm just moving this metal bracket just to tickle so I can get my my socket in there. Let's see here. Break it loose. Okay. Okay, alright. Pluck that nut out. I want to say these two nuts are 13 millimeter. So there it is. Now the we should be disconnected here. I believe that's all of the bolts going to it. Excellent. Okay, well, I just wanted to do a recap of what we have accomplished so far. So, we removed the entire front clip, the front bumper, started there, basically put the car in service mode, drained the coolant, pulled the entire front assembly, so the radiator, disconnected the transmission lines going into the the cooler built into the radiator. For once again, this is an automatic Tiptronic car. I did not drain the transmission fluid, but a bunch leaked out or dripped out once I disconnected those transmission lines. Now, we also disconnected the power steering hose, which effectively drained the power steering fluid. Jacked the car up really high, pulled the front tires. I dropped the exhaust, so I disconnected all the band clamps, pulled the catback exhaust off, so right now the stock downpipes are dangling under the car. I also removed above the exhaust is the heat shield, and after that point, then once you remove the heat shield, then you can get to the drive shaft that connects the transmission to the rear of the car. That was just six millimeter bolts, hex bolts. I think I might have stripped one of those, so I went to the dealer and ordered 6 new ones just to be safe. Then what else did we do? So we just finished breaking free the calipers. So we removed not only the calipers with those monster 21 millimeter bolts that gave me days of headaches, but we also disconnected the sensors. So the ABS sensors in each wheel, as well as the brake pad wear sensors. One note: I did not need to pop the spring on the caliper. I didn't realize that my brake pads would fall out, so that'll be funny. What else did we do? And then we separated the rest of the subframe from the struts, like the wheel wells, the strut towers and stuff. So we disconnected those bolts. So those are the 3 big bolts and 2 small nuts. The tie rods, we did those. And what else do we got next? So I just need to disconnect the electrical components to the transmission, the gear shifter, all that good stuff from underneath the car. From there, I need to, I need to finish separating the ABS sensor from the driver's side. So I didn't do that the same way I just did the passenger side. So I just got to cut one of the little clamps that holds that electrical harness or wire to the wheel well. What else? I believe I showed that on the passenger side, and I showed me doing that. So I will make sure to do that on the driver's side. And then the only thing left that I could think of was the I mentioned it before, but the other power steering fluid hose. So I disconnected the one that goes to the front of the engine. That's the easy one. There's one, I think it just goes somewhere around to the back. I don't know if it goes to like essentially the steering rack near the firewall or what. So I'm sure I'll figure that out once I start lowering the subframe and all that. So yeah, we're pretty much getting there. I can't wait to get this engine dropped. I mean, I know I'm gonna open an entire huge can of worms once I can see the back of the engine and stuff. I know it's been having slow leaks with pretty much every fluid in the damn car. So I don't know if there's a valve cover gasket that'll need to be replaced. I'm already planning on replacing all the coolant hose O-rings. So I will provide part numbers for all that stuff when the time comes. I'm also missing a bolt on one of my heat shields. On my driver's side turbo heat shield, I'm missing one of my bolts. And I noticed that there was a rattle sound. And someone had put essentially a hose clamp on that heat shield to like hold it in place. So it looks like it's missing one bolt. It has one of the two bolts in place. So I need to figure out what the story is with that. Probably order another bolt or find another bolt to get that tight. So I am planning on draining the transmission. I think I'm just gonna, I'm basically gonna flush the transmission, replace the trans filter, all that good stuff. I think I'm gonna do that at the very end. So I just want to keep trucking, keep moving. Like I said, most likely I'll get the entire car buttoned back up, get those transmission lines hooked into the radiator, and then from there I'll start draining it off and do all that. So I might even like fire up the car just to get it running again, make sure everything's good before I start working on the transmission and draining the fluid and stuff. Alright, so I'm excited. I've never dropped a subframe on a car before, and I think this would be really cool. So I'm just a little worried about in terms of safety, just using jack stands. I just have an engine lift and a couple jacks, so we'll see how this goes. Any questions, comments, ideas of ways to do things better? I'm all ears. So I'm not a mechanic by any means. If I can do it, you can do it. So that's the whole purpose of this video, is just to help you guys out, show you how I did it, what worked for me, what didn't work for me. It's all this information can be found online in the forums, but at this point, these cars are so old that it's a bear sometimes to dig through 10 years or 15 years of data on cars in forums. So that's why I like the videos. I'm more of a visual learner. I just like being able to pull up a video, my laptop, follow along, do it, make it happen, rather than read through stuff and all that. So yeah, stay tuned, and more to come. And I'm thinking tomorrow we're going to be dropping the subframe. So I need to get this dropped so I can see what all I need to repair, replace, fix, whatever. And so that way I can get some parts ordered. So yeah, it still might be another few days before I can get this back together, or even next week, just because I might be waiting on parts. It is what it is, but you know what? Car's got 130,000 miles, so I mean, I consider this routine maintenance, whereas most people, this would be a major repair if you had to pay someone else to do it. So if you do it yourself, you can afford more go fast parts. So see you out there. Stage 2 on the way.